What's good, YouTube? Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Thieaudio Legacy 4. Full disclosure, this unit was provided to me by Linsoul for review, and I will be doing my best to give my honest thoughts and impressions nonetheless. As usual, I'm not really going to cover any of the unboxing experience, the accessories, or anything of that nature, and the focus of this review will be on the actual sound quality. And with that being said, let's just dive right into this. I will throw up the frequency response on screen so you guys have a better idea of what I'm talking about. The overall tonal balance of the L4 is something of a mild V shape. The L4 actually has little dip switches here in the back that you can use to adjust the tuning. But there were only two tunings that I measured in the when I ran them off of my coupler. So yeah, I don't think there's actually 4 like you might expect with this IM. What the second tuning does is it stacks on some more mid-range presence, so it basically just raises the mid-range a little bit more, and then it stacks on a little bit of lower treble as well. If you're listening to a lot of male vocalists, or you simply want some more warmth, fullness to your sound, then the second tuning is what I'd recommend. Still, I'll mainly be speaking for the stock tuning, as the second tuning is a little bit too forward for my taste. Alright, and let's talk about the good stuff. The L4's new 8mm subwoofer is a big improvement over the one used in the Legacy 3 IM. If you have watched my video review of the L3, then you probably know I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 10. And quite frankly, the bass on that IM was not very good. It sounded blunted, smeared, and it had a plethora of intangible issues. And by contrast, I am pleased to report that the L4's new dynamic driver is quite the improvement. While I don't think it's quite to the level of the Automatic ER2 XR when it comes to control, the sheer slam and the tactility of this bass driver is just very, very pleasing. And I do think it's one of the most pleasing dynamic drivers that I've heard at this price point. So yeah, this thing slaps. If you listen to a lot of EDM, this is a terrific IM to go for. Of course, that is barring some caveats, which I will get into right now, actually. So yeah, subjectively, I'm not completely sold on the L4. There are some issues with the tuning, more subjective issues, mind you, with the tuning, that start cropping up as we move into the mid-range and treble. The L4 is one of those IMs that sounds really good to me on first listen. Like, I remember raving about it in the Discord servers I generally frequent. I was like saying, oh, holy cow, how can this be so good? But yeah, it's also one of those IMs that quickly grows fatiguing for me. If we take a look at the graph, there are some key pointers as to why this might be. First, you'll notice that the L4 exhibits a 2 to 3 kHz plateau right around the ear gain. And this is important because it largely dictates how forward vocal presentation sounds. Personally, I prefer my IMs to peak somewhere around 2 to 2.5 kHz. All the IMs that I like, the Android 2020, the U12T, the Neo, almost all of them peak in that region. And they most definitely do not plateau like that either. And if you look at the treble, there's a 5 kHz peak in the lower treble. So yeah, cymbals, stick hits, stuff like that, they're going to have quite a lot of impact. And it's a bit too jarring for my taste. And in contrast to what the graph might imply with that subsequent 5 kHz dip, I do hear good amounts of crash in the mid-treble. In general, the L4 is quite the bright IM to my ears, to the point of which it's just a little bit too fatiguing, and I do find myself gravitating towards certain tracks more than others in an effort to mitigate that. To be clear though, this isn't really a criticism of the quality of the treble so much as it is the sheer quantity. Like most IMs in this price range, the L4 does not exhibit the best treble extension. However, I do think it has sufficient presence past 10 kHz in those air frequencies to prevent the IM from feeling too closed in. So not bad treble at all. I'd probably say it's above average actually, and all the more so if you are a treble head. In terms of technical performance, the L4 is a strong performer. Resolution in particular is a standout, and it's a step ahead of the Moondrop KXXS, my usual $200 benchmark, while perhaps not quite to the level of the Automatic ER4 XR. This is likely where we're seeing the benefits of that 2 to 3 kHz plateau, as well as that 5 kHz treble peak. And what I mean by this is that you can generally create the perception of resolution by raising the upper mid-range and adding in a treble peak or two. That being said though, I do think that the L4 has pretty good detail retrieval on top of that, and it captures smaller nuances better than its price might imply. It's on the layering side of things that the L4 begins to struggle, and this does seem to be a limitation of many lower count balanced armature setups. And by this, I mean that notes have a tendency to squeeze sort of on more complex tracks, like the IM can't quite fully process everything that it's spitting out. In terms of imaging, positional accuracy is pretty average, and diffusal of the image itself, I'd probably say is maybe slightly above average. It's decent for the price, however, it's not anything mind-blowing either. Okay, so let's talk conclusions. A year or two ago, the L4 probably would have been the IM to buy, and it might have even been groundbreaking for the time. That being said, we've been seeing a huge influx of very, very good IMs lately, and even Thieaudio's own Clairvoyance and Monarch IMs are a prime example of it. And in this vein, I don't think the L4 is the next giant killer or anything of the sort. What has been a giant killer, honestly. But it's definitely a very solid contender in the $200 price bracket, one that I'm pretty happy to recommend. And it's definitely a great follow-up to the L3 and the Voyager 3. Man, those IMs, I was not a big fan of either of them, particularly the Voyager 3. It only had like one usable setting, and it was, oof. No, yeah. If you have the extra coin to spend, definitely consider purchasing the L4 over the L3 or the Voyager 3. As for the L3 in particular, I could still see a case being made for it as they're quite different sound signatures. The L3 is way darker, but I do think that the intangible benefits, the resolution, the clarity, the detail, are all skewed pretty hard towards the L4, and it'd be my recommendation over the L3. Yeah, as always, I hope you guys found this video review informative. If you did, be sure to smash that like button and to subscribe for future content, as it really does help the channel grow. And peace out until next time.